So as a mother who has a married son, I was thinking this morning about just the concept of, how we treat our daughters versus our sons. I don't have a daughter, but a lot of times I hear people say, oh, you wouldn't do that to your daughter, or what would you want somebody to do for your daughter? And that's kind of just in regards to like how men treat women. But I never really hear people say, oh, you wouldn't do that to your son, or so-and-so shouldn't do that to your son. So I feel like there is, coming out of the wave of feminism, I feel like there's a lot of support for women, and there are some places where there's no support for women. I understand that. It's kind of a spectrum of support around the world. But I think sometimes we kind of obsess as a society on one thing, and we don't find that balance. And that's where I think, Tradpro is a balance, because it's a traditional understanding of roles. I'm not saying everybody should be forced into this, but I think it's a healthy balance, because there's also a progressive mentality about human rights and social consciousness and values that support justice and equity and inclusion. And I just think that both go hand in hand, and it's not something that's being talked about. There's a lot of talk about, of course, police brutality, protect our sons from the cops, especially Black sons. And that is important, super important. I actually was marching and protesting for Black Lives Matter in 2012 when Trayvon was killed, and that was kind of pre-BLM movement. That was when Black Lives Matter was just something you said at the protests and rallies, not like a business or organization or a website. It was just a statement that our sons' lives matter. And I think that that's just the minimum, to say, don't kill our sons. But what about their life? Like, what about support our sons? What do we want for our sons in marriage, in relationships? And as a woman who was raised arguably with an early 1900s point of view, very kind of sexist, racist, just very oppressive growing up. And that was all really tied to religion and, God and man and woman and kids and animals, and this whole hierarchy of not just roles, but like worth. So anyways, being raised like that and having experienced that oppression and abuse within that context, I kind of had to unwind my mind from a lot of that. And I didn't believe in divorce, but when it came to a point where I had no other option, I left my marriage after 5 years. And I did so for the sake of my son. And, I think that at that point I started to question everything, because that whole upbringing landed me in an unhealthy, imbalanced, and oppressive, abusive marriage. So that, I feel like, is something that I had to rethink. But in the process of rethinking that, I kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater. I already knew that I was attracted to women, but I had felt like that was a sin. So having kissed my first kiss with a girl as a teenager. So I feel like, I rethought everything, and I started dating women. After my divorce, I dated men. I dated, a spectrum of cultures. So I kind of just explored and sorted through not just my sexuality and relationship dynamics, but also my core values, and like, what do I want to hold on to for my life? What makes sense to me, not just what I was raised to be, because I knew that that was not going to work for me. So, but in the process of kind of throwing everything out, I found that what I brought back, what remained as part of me, was I love to cook. I love to please my partner. I mean, even when I've been in relationships with women, it's like I'm the wifey, you know. Everybody loves my cooking, and that fulfills me. That makes me happy. And there was kind of a little bit of dissonance, like maybe that's not something I can talk about. Maybe I shouldn't mention it, or, you know, much less brag about it, because that was kind of frowned upon from the liberal progressive side, as far as like being domestic wasn't the goal of a lot of that worldview. So going from far conservative as an upbringing to pretty far liberal philosophically, I was like, wait, now I don't fit over here. And so I kind of had to come to a balance. And I'm kind of just really kind of frustrated, I guess, a little bit, and bothered by the narratives that continue to percolate on the left side about women who are domestic, or who want to serve their husbands or partners, and you know, fill that domestic role and really excel at that, like really excel at cooking, really excel at sex and in the bedroom, really excel at everything that brings your partner pleasure and happiness, and what, you know, ties you together and really makes you both fulfilled. So I feel like there's not a lot of talk about that, because women who enjoy serving, submitting, pleasing are kind of, you know, thought of as less empowered. And I feel like the narrative is that women need to be empowered, and there's not a lot of narrative about, like, how do we empower our sons? How do we empower, you know, our brothers, fathers, whatever. I feel like raising sons, it's been evident that there's just a lot of focus on the needs of girls, the needs of women, and raise your sons to be good men that are gonna treat women right. And of course I've done that, and they're solid guys. My two older sons, 23 and 31, so they're grown. But yeah, they have the ability to interact in a relationship in a very healthy way. And yet I don't see much accountability for the daughters, the mothers, the wives, the girlfriends, the women, in terms of how are they going to interact and be the best in a relationship. And I kind of like to see that, because it kind of sucks when your sons go through relationship issues, whether dating or marriage, and it seems pretty preventable, and it seems kind of like there's this pressure on women to be independent, to be strong, not need anybody, and look sexy, look beautiful, do all the things independently. And that just leaves a guy or a partner as just somebody for sex, somebody to procreate with if you're in a hetero relationship, or to co-parent with if you're not, if you want to adopt or surrogacy, all the options. But I'm just saying, like, it kind of just leaves that partner as a roommate, a cohabitator, somebody for sex. I mean, like, what do men offer women besides their penis and you can get a baby? And then, like, after that, women don't really, some women, this narrative is like, we don't really need a guy for anything else except if we want a baby and if we want a real one versus buying a toy. So I feel like that just devalues the man. And historically, since the early marches with the signs, I am a man, I mean, there's been a huge devaluing of Black men in America, and there's never been a hierarchy where Black men were above women, all women, in terms of value. That was kind of like white men, then like women and Black men and everybody else. in that secondary category. So growing up as a second-class citizen in my household as a kid, just being a girl, I was kind of thrown into that category with all my Black siblings, including the boys, because there was only one white boy in the family, and he was the first-class citizen. He was the favorite, still is. But anyway, I feel like I just want better for my sons. And as a woman, when I'm in a relationship with a man, which I am now, I mean, I think about this and just think like, what would I want someone to do and be for my son in a relationship? You know, how am I being held accountable for supporting my partner, for providing for his needs in the ways that I am uniquely gifted to do? How am I considering his feelings, you know, him as a whole person?